Hey there, good morning everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to the 23rd episode of the 30 most important albums in the history of hard rock and heavy metal. 30 days of November, 30 of what I feel are the most important and influential albums in hard rock and heavy metal history that helped shape what we now know as hard rock and heavy metal. So I wanted to clarify something because we've had a couple people who continue to be upset over the fact that have been talking about so many older albums from the 60s and 70s. Well, if you look at the title of this series, the 30 most important albums in the history of hard rock and heavy metal, okay? I'm sorry, but something that was released 5, 10, 15 years ago, is that an important album in the history of hard rock and heavy metal? No, you have to look at the albums that laid the groundwork for what we now call hard rock, we now call heavy metal. This is not about our favorite albums, right, of all time. This is not about the coolest heavy metal albums that were released in 2000, 2005, 1995. It's not about that. Sure, bands like, Mastodon and Tool and Opeth. I mean, a lot of great metal bands have popped up over the last, decade or two. We get it. We're talking about the bands that influenced them, okay? So we have to go back. That's what this is all about. We may revisit something later on where we talk about the coolest metal or hard rock bands of the last 20, 30 years, but that's not what we're talking about in this series, all right? So if all you're really interested in is newer metal bands, well, then maybe this show ain't for you. This series isn't for you. But for those of you who want to investigate some of the bands that laid the groundwork, that influenced a lot of these more modern bands, and even some of the not modern bands, right? That's what we're talking about here. And in many cases, we're talking about albums that seems to be a lot of debate about the heavy factor, the heaviness of it. Right? There's a lot of albums that I've named that, and they may not be 100% heavy through and through, but there's plenty of heaviness on them that help influence many other bands that came after them. Okay? So, and again, I only have 30 slots. There are albums that are going to be left off. We get a lot of people getting upset that, Pete, you haven't named this album, you haven't named this album. You can't name them all. I'm going to throw out a handful of honorable mentions at the very end in the last episode to make everybody happy, but even then I'm not going to make everybody happy. All right, and then there's a lot of people naming like bands that just, they never had an influence on hard rock and metal. They really weren't heavy, but because you like them and they're kind of rocking, Pete, how about this album? I can't believe you haven't mentioned it. Guys, come on. You can't name everything, all right? So just have fun with this already. It's just, and again, these are my choices. They don't have to be yours. If you're going to get upset and offended over the fact that I left out your favorite band, hey, go do your own list somewhere else, right? Go start your own channel and do your greatest hard rock and heavy metal albums of all time. You're not going to offend me, right? Or put your full list in the comments. Guys, just have fun with this, all right? These are my picks. You don't like my picks? Well, that's too bad. They're my picks, right? Anyway, on with number 23. This one has been asked for by a lot of you, hoping that it was coming for me. And of course, if you know me well, you know it was coming. Released May 15th, 1976. Produced by Martin Birch for the Polydor Oyster label. Of course, I'm talking about the legendary Rainbow Rising. Ritchie Blackmore on guitar. Ronnie James Dio on vocals. Cozy Powell on drums. Jimmy Bain on bass, and Tony Carey on keyboards. One of the great early heavy metal albums, or you can call it hard rock too, but it's more, the reason why this one kind of like moves into metal territory is because, if you don't have Rainbow Rising, you probably don't have power metal. And I think this is one of the most important albums in the history of what we later became known as, power metal, gothic power metal, even a little bits of progressive metal, because there's lots of things going on in this album. We talked about how the Rush 2112 album and Rush in general laid a lot of the groundwork for progressive metal. But you can also go back to this album as well, because how many prog metal bands, whoever, Dream Theater, Symphony X, Vanden Plasmine, Pain of Salvation. You can name all sorts of bands who, did these like longer epic tracks with all these kind of like keyboard and guitar trade-offs, and the drum solos and that voice, right? That soaring voice. I mean, power metal and prog metal owes a lot to this album and this band in particular. I mean, so many great songs on here. You got, everybody talks about the two big epics, right, that close the album, side 2 of the vinyl. Stargazer and Light in the Black. Amazing. Epic, heavy rock songwriting. Right there. Then you got the kind of the lighter tracks, but still heavy hitting stuff like Tarot Woman, Run with the Wolf, Starstruck, little lighthearted, little playful there. Do You Close Your Eyes, more of like kind of like a hard rock and boogie song, kind of more reminiscent of maybe what we heard on the first album from them. But man, you've got some classics on here. Absolute classics on here. Arguably Ronnie James Dio's best vocal performance on an album ever. Okay, arguably. One of a couple, right? It's one of my favorites. Blackmore is incredible on here. Really, this is a whole band just really firing on all cylinders, working together for the first time as a unit. And unfortunately, this would be the only studio album we would get from these guys. And then Richie would kind of change the lineup a bit for the subsequent album with a new keyboard player and a new bass player. But everybody on here working so well together. Absolutely dynamite. Let me just make sure. I was hoping to show you the picture of the band, the live shots of the band, but this is the CD issue that does not have the cool little live shots of the band in black and white. But anyway, yeah, Rainbow Rising, incendiary, legendary album from Rainbow. The second album from Rainbow, no longer listed here as Richie Blackmore's Rainbow, but this is the Rainbow Band. Like I said, we would get you get the live album from them with this lineup, and then for Long Live Rock and Roll, you've got Bob Daisley and David Stone coming in, replacing Jimmy Bain and Tony Carey. Also really good, but this is the one that most people cite. But again, this is, whether it's your favorite Rainbow album or not, man, how many bands over the years have you read from or heard them speak about how much they got from this album? So many. And I listen to this and I hear the groundwork for so many albums that came after it. So many heavy metal bands and hard rock bands who took stuff from this, whether it be from Ronnie's songwriting style, his vocal style, the guitar style, the epic framework of it all. Man, Rainbow Rising, classic album. That is my pick today here on this series, 30 most important albums in the history of hard rock and heavy metal. Stay tuned tomorrow for episode 24, another absolutely groundbreaking one coming up that you do not want to miss. Tomorrow's pick is just was a complete game changer in so many ways. So stay tuned for that as we move our way towards episode 30, the last day of November. And this is on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're on YouTube all the damn time. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell. We've got a link to our Ko-Fi page below for channel donations, the link to our merch page, all sorts of fun and cool Sea of Tranquility stuff. The holidays are coming. Take advantage of the sale that's going on the website there. Link to that is below, as well as the link to seatranquility.org. Our webzine celebrating 20 years this year. I got about a little over a month to keep saying that, and then we move into year 21. And, well, I don't have to say it anymore. So thanks for watching. I am Pete Pardo. We'll see you all real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.